So
Should have done my hair.
everybody looks good. Don't even worry about it. It's Zoom life, right?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Well, thank you guys all for coming to the Poway Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee meeting for March 24th, 2021. We have a great special guest in our District 4 Council Member Kaylin Frank, we'll also be getting updates provided by city leaders, county leaders, and government leaders from across the San Diego County. So first, I want to start off with some introductions. So I'm just going to call your first name and we'll go from there. We'll start with Councilmember.
Councilmember Kaylin Frank, District 4, Poway.
Jack.
Hi, Jack Cohen, Chamber Member.
Yeah, Dan Meyer with Edco Waste and Recycling Services.
Christine.
Christine Antoine, County Water Authority.
Jason.
Jason Bergovich with Congressman Scott Peters.
Mike.
Mike Leland, President, Poway Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, I was late.
No worries. Craig.
Craig Ruiz, City of Poway, Economic Development.
Piera.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Piera Moise, Health Promotion Specialist at American Lung Association.
And we do have Carl. He's with Brian, Assembly Member Brian Manshine's office, and unfortunately, he can't speak today. His microphone's not working, so he's just going to be listening. Well, thank you all for coming. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it. We're happy to welcome District 4 Council Member Kaylin Frank. So a little bit about Kaylin. Kaylin is 34 years old. She graduated from the University of San Diego with a bachelor's degree in political science and government. She has an extensive resume with interning at the U.S. House of Representatives and working with the County of San Diego for over 11 years as Senior Policy Advisor for Bill Horn and Chair's Assistant for Supervisor Greg Cox. Her work for Horn provided her with experience in local government and administration. In 2018, she was unanimously appointed by the City Council to fill a vacancy left by the resignation of Jim Cunningham. She spent 5 months on the council before being officially elected in the November 2018 election. She most recently was elected to the District 4 council seat in Poway, which was newly formed. And with that, council member, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's been a while since I was able to attend the government affairs meeting, so it's hard to, I'm hiding from my kids right now while they have breakfast. So it's a little hard to get going sometimes, but thank you, Michael, for that introduction. I am super excited to be the first council member for District 4, which represents almost the whole city south of Poway Road. So we go up into the Garden Road area, and then that's where kind of the boundary splits it over into Barry Leonard's district. So a lot of exciting stuff obviously going on Poway Road that impacts my district. And so as I have my first whole 4-year term, I've really been thinking about, what do I want to look back on after 4 years and feel, really proud of. I think one of the biggest things, and if you've been following along recently, we have done a long-term financial forecast for the city to kind of look at trends and what we can expect to use that to help inform us in making some of our decisions going forward. And the next few years, we've talked about this for a long time, and the forecast confirmed it, that we've got some tough, tight times coming up in the next 4 to 5 years. We're not predicting a lot of excess general fund money. And that's really until some of these projects that we've lined up on Poway Road and the farm come online and we see that property tax revenue. We also have some of our unfunded pension liability dropping off after the mid-20s. So we see kind of this light at the end of the tunnel where the city will be in a much better financial position, hopefully to really go long term, because as most of you probably know, we're mostly built out. We're not going to see many, large scale developments or increases in that property tax base. So it's important that we're kind of able to maintain that into the future. So I think that one of the biggest things will be just getting our city through the next few years. We have fantastic employees and we need to take care of them. We have, especially right now, I'm always so impressed with all the staff members that come and present to the city council, the answers and the depth of the answers and information I'm able to get from staff members. We have a really fantastic team and we need to be able to take care of them and compensate them the way they're deserved. So that's going to be a huge thing that I think all 5 of us are very focused on is, how do we balance the needs of, the capital needs and some of our ongoing costs and all of that while also taking care of our folks and providing services to the community at the level that they expect. So that's probably the biggest task we have right now. And I think that those things include one of the things I'm really excited about is our community park assessment. It's been a while, I think, since the city has taken a really close look at our park system. And that's always one of the things that when I talk to folks, that's what they love about parks or that they love about Poway is our parks. I mean, I live within, I think, 2.5 miles of 5 great parks in Poway. And so it's a great resource. We have a ton of families. We have older folks that use them to, get their exercise, get out of the house. And especially during this time, I think now that folks are starting to feel more comfortable being out, they're such an important resource because it does give folks the space to spread out, get some exercise, get some fresh air, maybe see some people that they haven't seen in a long time. We have the space to distance and things like that. So the community park assessment is the first step. That's our biggest park. It should be our best park. Proudly, it is in District 4. And so that's going to be a very robust assessment. We're going to do a lot of community input, community surveys. And really what we're looking for is, what do residents want in their parks today? Parks have been built, years and years ago, and maybe things were popular that aren't as popular today, or maybe there are new things that we could offer, things like that. So I'm really excited to see what the feedback is that we get. I'm hoping that there might be ways that we can use some of that information to look beyond at some of our other parks. So I'd certainly, after 4 years, I'd like to look back and feel like we really put some TLC into our parks. I don't think that we have the budget, the space, or really the need to add new park space, but I think that we can do better with what we have. And so that's, I think, a really great thing that we're working on. COVID kind of put a lot of that to a halt because obviously folks weren't using parks for a long time and our playgrounds were closed. So I think we're talking now about gearing back up and looking at that. So that's going to be a really great thing that will spread. Obviously, we have some projects that we're working on Poway Road, and I think it'll be fantastic once we haven't yet seen one project completed. So I think once we have a project done, open, a resource for the community, folks are living there, the commercial space is open, and all of that, I'm really hopeful that everyone will see what a benefit it's going to be to the city. And that it's not going to take away from our quality of life, which is, the big concern really that we hear. So I think that that's something that hopefully after 4 years, we'll at least have some of these things up and running and start to see that the vision for Poway Road and what the Poway Road specific plan is intended to accomplish is working. And so that'll be really important. I am working on kind of tweaking the specific plan a little bit. When it came to council back in, I think 2017, it was definitely before my time. The way it was written really kind of just about eliminated the possibility of our thrift stores staying in Poway. Obviously, we've closed that the shopping center with all the thrift stores. It's been sold to a private developer, and the thrift stores have closed or looking at relocating. A lot of them are affiliated with churches, even local Poway churches. And so I feel like there could still be a place for them in our community. I think that the Carriage Center kind of gave thrift stores a bad name. because there wasn't a lot of care and attention given to the shopping center as a whole. And so it just kind of, it was assumed that the thrift stores were the ones kind of making it look that way. And I don't think that's the case. I think that we can do thrift stores in a really nice, if you've ever been to Buffalo Exchange, like down in Hillcrest or whatever, those are really nice stores, and they definitely attract a different kind of crowd. We've got a lot of teenagers that love to shop at those kinds of places and need things to kind of occupy them. So I'm working on changing some of the zoning to give a little more access for thrift stores on Poway Road without detracting from the overall vision that the specific plan has. So that'll be coming to council, I think probably in April, and we'll see how that goes. And then obviously you guys have been involved with the hotel proposal in the business park. So I know that the chamber has been a strong supporter of that. We're hasn't been scheduled for a council meeting yet, but they put up the story pole up on the property to kind of give folks an idea of the what 5 stories looks like. So I'm hearing a little bit, but not a whole lot in the community about it yet. So we'll see how that goes. I do think that a boutique hotel would be a great addition to Poway. It's just a question of, is this the right one with the right size? Is what they're asking for reasonable? And all of that. But ultimately, I think if we were to have a 5-story building in Poway, the business park's the appropriate place. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't seen the full staff report from it yet. So, but I think that'll be probably getting a lot of attention. And I think it's great that the chamber's stepping out and getting in support of the things that you guys feel strongly about. That's always a great addition to the conversation. And finally, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Big Stone Lodge site, but it's actually like right behind my house in Southwest Poway off Old Pomerado Road. And it's currently owned by the Housing Authority. I don't think it's an appropriate site for housing. I think that the bang for our buck as far as what we would be able to do there based on some of the environmental limitations. I think that we could probably provide better housing at another site. I'd love to, I don't know that we'll be able to resolve the issue of it being owned by the Housing Authority anytime soon, just based on some budgetary constraints and lack of kind of comparable sites in Poway. But I think there might be some things that we could do to provide some access to the public and kind of preserve this historic site. It's a beautiful area. I think, it's a great place for folks to hang out, use it kind of as a passive park. There's a trailhead there, beautiful trees. It's a nice shady spot in the summer. So that's something that I'd love to see kind of, right now it's just sitting there, it's unused, there's no access. And I think that we can do better than that. So that's something that I'm kind of working through and hoping that we'll see something come of it in the next few years. And those are kind of the top things that I've been looking at. I'd love to answer any questions, or if there's anything I didn't touch on that you want to know more about. We're trucking along. I think that, we've got some really great leadership at the city with, we're all very, kind of aligned as far as our vision and what we want to see happen, which makes for a respectful, productive council. And I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, council member. With that, do we have any questions to start off?
I have one.
All
Just-
right, go for it, Dan.
Yeah, Caitlin, I had dinner with a friend last night who's really into Frisbee golf. Do we have anything like that in Poway?
I don't think we do. And that's actually one of the things that we've talked about are things like Frisbee golf, which I don't think even existed when a lot of our parks were formed.
Oh, no.
And it's definitely a generational thing. My little brother loves it, has his own set and plays all the time. And it's not a huge impact as far as like taking away uses in other parks. I mean, you just kind of stick those holes in some of our big grassy areas. So that's definitely something that I hope we'll maybe hear more about if there's interest in that.
Well, I was talking to him. I guess it's really popular, especially with COVID. It gives people golf, and Frisbee golf has been really, really popular for this past year. But maybe something, maybe a course over by the Big Stone Lodge area might be a good place to have something like that too.
Maybe that's good. That's important to keep in mind. That's a great idea. I think that, yeah, we have some space that is probably not used in the best way that it can. And so my goal with the assessment is to really look at, are we doing what we should be doing with the space we have? And that's a great amenity.
If you want to take a look, Kit Carson Park has one here in Escondido.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I've been to the one that, like, the Balboa Park area. There's one that's really popular. I used to live over there a long time ago. And I remember
Just a thought.
Yeah, all the time. No, that's definitely something that I've thought about is, things like Frisbee golf, bocce ball, horseshoes, like all of those things. Do we have enough? Are they used enough? All of that. And Frisbee golf's definitely, especially for I guess my generation and younger are using that a lot. So thanks, Dan.
Yep.
We have a question from Hunter. And Hunter, I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself real fast as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having this so early in the morning for me so I can get this done and everything else. I'm the executive director of Villa de Vida, and that's Villa de Vida Inc. That's the service provider for the affordable housing community that Mercy is building on the corner of Oak Knoll and Pomerado. So that's finishing up. But if you have any questions, we can chat later. But my question for Kaylin is, when are you going to start the assessments for the parks, and how will the community input look?
Yeah. So I don't, like I said, COVID kind of threw off our timeline. So I don't have a specific start date, but I know that we are going to hire a consultant that will help us kind of do these types of assessments to ensure. And so there's going to be multiple ways. We are going to have, I believe there's going to be like community meetings. There's going to be online surveys. And we're even going to have staff like stationed at the park to talk to folks as they're using it. So to really have kind of that in-person opportunity, and we'll publicize it. I'm hopeful the chieftain will help us out with getting some publicity. I'm really active on a couple of social media groups in Poway, so I'd certainly be sharing it and asking for that input. So the goal is we'll use kind of every available outlet to get it out there and have folks, have that opportunity to weigh in. So I think that it'll be a good, robust survey, and hopefully we'll see some trends, and we'll really be able to pull some stuff out there, and we won't have residents that are just all over the place.
Thank you. Mike, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Kaylin, I just want to say thanks for coming on, and thanks for your support of the chamber and working with the chamber. We really appreciate you, and you're awesome. And then I just had a question. Obviously, you're the young blood on the council there. I know some of the other guys, couple in particular, might be getting close to the end of their run. Can you tell us when some of those guys, does anybody, I guess they don't term out, right? They need to retire. So do you want to talk about that just real quick?
Yeah.
And no, I do not want to run. I'm staying with the chamber. This is as close to politics as I'll ever get.
Well, you live in my district, so you better not run yet. No.
I will not run against you, I promise.
Yeah, the 2022 is going to be a really interesting year for our leadership. I'm pretty sure it's fairly public that John Mullen and Dave Grush will not run again. They do have that opportunity, and I guess they could always change their mind, but they've talked about that. So that's District 1 and District 3, which are both kind of the central areas of the city. Barry Leonard's district kind of is almost like a wraparound U of the city, kind of the outskirts. And then when you're looking at the heart of the city, that's District 1 and 3. So definitely something that, if folks have an interest, I don't have kind of a list of who's talked about running yet. I think it's still, people think of it being so far away. We just got out of the 2020 election. So, but I'm sure as Jason knows, those elections come up real quick, especially, when you have to run every 2 years.
We'll get you census data eventually.
Yeah. So, and I don't think redistricting will be in effect for 2022. I'm not sure if Craig knows. I don't think, yeah. So, but Poway's district lines probably won't change very much. We haven't seen, huge population shifts or changes. So I'm sure the lines will be very close, if not the same. Because I think we have a buffer of how much the districts can be different. So yeah, so that, and then obviously Steve Voss will be up for re-election. I do believe he will run again. And so the potential is you could have 3 new people on the council, but I think we'll definitely at least have 2 new people. And I'd love to see some more women run. I'd love to see some more young folks run. It's a lot of times we get kind of obviously I stick out and I look a little different than the rest of them. And so I think it's important, just a little bit. I always joke, like, they've all been vaccinated. I haven't been vaccinated yet. But it's important that we get, those perspectives. There's a lot of times that there's a generational difference in how we see things or the priorities that we have. So I would certainly love to see some of more of our young families get involved, and the chamber is a great way to do it. I always encourage people, especially if they are involved with a business here, to start coming to the events. This is a great way. I met so many people when I got on the council, just by coming to your mixers. So it's you guys can definitely be a part of picking some future leadership, which I think is fantastic.
Cool. And you and I will talk some more about that offline, because I know you're really open to talk to people and share. So let's set a meeting at the Hop Stop, talk about that some more offline.
Sounds good.
Councilmember, I know, we're looking at the long-term financial forecast. Do we have an idea of what the new stimulus is going to do for the city of Poway? And that might even be a Jason question as well. I'm not sure if they've gotten that number yet, and what those priorities for those dollars.
I'm sure Craig can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the city of Poway should, if everything goes the way that it's supposed to go, get 9.2 million over 2 years. And so we're still working out the logistics of what we absolutely can and can't use that money for. The goal of it is supposed to be kind of revenue replacement. And so how you kind of shift that money around to use it for what we need. I know the council has always had a pretty strong perspective that we don't like to use one-time monies for ongoing costs. So whether, that money can go into salaries, or if it's something that we need to really talk about. But I'm hopeful that, I said we have kind of this kind of downturn for the next few years before we see us kind of come out of this and have some surplus general fund. And I'm hopeful that things like this stimulus money will help kind of bridge those gaps and get us through the next few years and be able to do what we need to do without really seeing any reduction to services or to staff. But it's always so, we have a lot of fear that something will change, and that, we may get the first half of it this year, but next year, if something does change or there's any kind of change in even how you can use it, we don't want to be relying on that money for something that we've kind of promised and can't come through on. So it's definitely something that is part of our discussions when we're talking about kind of what our financial goals are and how to get there. But there's always concern when we know that it's just a one-time kind of boost.
That's understandable. And then lastly, the city of Poway was really creative during COVID. Do you see any of those programs or options created during COVID to stay, possibly see that continued on for the future?
I can't speak for my colleagues. I don't know. That hasn't been something that we've discussed. I will say that I've loved a lot of the expanded dining And I'd like to think that if there's a way to just, we'd have to have some kind of oversight. Right now, we're kind of letting businesses just do what they need to do. And it's kind of an honor system that they're abiding by safe practices and all of that. And so I think we'd have to kind of come up with some kind of process. But if there was an ability for some of these places that have created this, great outdoor space, I'd love to see some options to explore to see if we could help them maintain that. I don't know how long it'll be before folks are 100% comfortable dining in. I know there's people that no matter what, it's going to be a while before they really feel comfortable being inside with groups, especially as the capacity, I'm assuming the capacity for restaurants will continue to increase. Right now it's still pretty spread out inside. And so if that's something that, we feel is valuable to them beyond the declared pandemic, I'd love to have that conversation. I think that, our picnic table loan program has been awesome. And we still have Pearl loan funding. So if there are any small businesses that are feeling like they need, a little boost to help get them through, especially after we had, new shutdowns last winter and some of that stuff, we still have funding available, and Craig is the administrator of that and can help guide folks through that. So it's going to be, I don't think we're going to see like one day we just flip the switch and everything goes back to normal. I think it'll be kind of a gradual process as we roll some stuff back and have those conversations. But what I'd love to hear back from the community about what they feel they would like to stay, or what they think has been, a valuable change that we've adapted to because of this that would be worthwhile, because businesses have gotten so creative. There's been some really great collaborations. I always think of, Mellow Yoga at the Hop Stop that is just, I don't know that would have ever even come about if she still had, just her regular studio and was having those classes. So some of those things, I think that it's a conversation that I think we should have for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Any more questions? And I think we can let you get back to your normal day. Thank you so much for coming and taking your time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. And as always, I know Mike have my contact info. I hope most of you do. If you ever have any questions or need anything, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye. All right. With that, we will just jump right into our elected officials and community updates. And we will go ahead and start with Jason Berkovich from Representative Scott Peters' office.
Thanks, Michael. So Kaylin took some of the thunder when you asked her question. So yeah, as she mentioned, I think the big news for Poway and the main things to be aware of is from the American Rescue Plan, it was 9.28 million, which we anticipate going to Poway. The other thing of note is there is 647 million going to San Diego County. So hopefully those kind of two pots can be leveraged a little bit together to try to see what we can do for the benefit of the city as well as for the benefit of surrounding county areas. The biggest thing to note, and I was hoping Kayla would stay on, but this message can definitely be relayed over. We're actually working with Treasury right now on the rules for what the money can be used for. So they've openly asked the members of Congress for input on how they're defining some of the terminology around what the 9.28 million can be used for, what the county can use its money for. And for example, one idea that's been floated, there are specific allocations in there for water infrastructure. And I know that this was a hot topic in Poway. I forget, but fairly recently, we had a hot topic around water. COVID time has thrown off my calendar. But for example, we're wondering, maybe can some of those water infrastructure questions that came up, which I know were a fairly large expense for the city, is that something that American Rescue Plan funds could potentially used to fix, to resolve in a more long-term basis. Also, Kaylin was talking about parks and the parks assessment. We're talking to Treasury when they talk about revenue declines. The question is whether they're going to be looking at it from a general fund basis, or if you have specific pots. So like the city of San Diego, there's parks and recs. There are specific funds. You've got your superior courts. So there are various different funds where you might have a significant shortfall in one fund. You may have a surplus in another fund. So we would hope that Treasury looks at that accordingly, as opposed to just taking the general across the board view of it, because that's where revenue declines are going to be very significant in some areas, and there's other areas that may have remained stable. So those are the kinds of things that we're working with Treasury on right now, is their interpretations of what projects and what expenses would be eligible for that assistance. And we're ready, willing, and able to take any input that you guys have any thoughts on what might benefit Poway, depending on how the Poway budget is structured, and take those to Treasury. The other thing that I would note too, for small businesses, of course, there was a lot of assistance in there as well for small businesses. We now have a second round of PPP that some businesses are going to be eligible for. You do have to show significant decline in revenue. That's the one difference, is for the second round of PPP compared to the first round of PPP. You do have to show that 2020 compared to 19, you have had, if I remember correctly, it's a 25% reduction in revenue, but they are specific revenue reduction targets in order to qualify for that second round of PPP. But that is out there. We also put additional funding into the economic injury disaster loans from the SBA, which I know a lot of small business were taking advantage of those. So overall, there is a lot of new money that's recently been appropriated, and we want to make sure that our local small businesses, our local cities, are taking advantage of those funds as much as possible. So I'll continue to update as more information becomes available. A lot of these programs are fluid. One other one that I'll highlight, and then I'm happy to take questions. I know there's a lot of conversation around PowPack and what's been going on with PowPack. There's a fund specifically for shuttered venues. So that, depending on conversation with PowPack and what's going on there, you might want to pass along that message that the SBA recently announced. I believe it's going to be on April 1st. There's a $15 billion fund specifically for shuttered venues that have really not been able to do anything throughout the course of the pandemic. So that could be something for PowPack to look at and take advantage of, as well as I know that there's some other theater companies that are operating out of Poway. They can take a look at the shuttered venue fund, and potentially they might be able to access that $15 billion, which is strictly for those venues, looking at music venues, looking at theaters, things like that. So the money's there, the programs are being rolled out little by little, and we're happy to take any input on who should or shouldn't be eligible for these different pots.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Also, I want you to give a thank you to your boss. I know he's doing a lot of work on the roundabout ideas around San Diego. I'm a big fan of roundabouts personally. I like to see them proliferate around the county. So thank you.
I would definitely pass along that message. And I think that goes, I mean, even looking at Poway Road, one thing that we've encouraged the Treasury is, if a city wants to make a long-term investment, knowing that there's going to be cost savings down the road, I mean, we feel like that would be an appropriate use of the American Rescue funding. So although it was primarily meant to backstop revenue shortfalls, if you had already initiated a project knowing that there was going to be long-term savings, we would hope that we can help finalize those projects, because on the back end, the savings would ultimately help fill the budget gaps that have arisen over the last couple of years. So those are the kind of conversations that we know infrastructure is a huge part of that. Like I mentioned water because there's a pot of funding just for water infrastructure, but also roads, general maintenance, things like that. We would hope that Treasury allows cities to make investments in long-term projects that are going to have savings and that are going to have long-term savings.
Thank you.
Jason, I'm really interested on that, the PowPack. So I'll be reaching out to you on that, or if there's something you can send me to mike@poway.com that we could forward to them, that would be great. And they're actually the beneficiary of our golf tournament next month. So we're looking to help them any way we can.
And I will post the link. I don't have too much additional insight, but here's the link I'll post from the Small Business Administration website. So I always send people there first, kind of play around with it, see what you can find. And then if questions arise from there, then let me know, because they're not going to be taking applications until the beginning of April. They just announced that. This is the time to start prepping and seeing if they're eligible and what window they might be eligible in based on revenue shortfalls and other factors.
Awesome, thank you.
I had a quick question. If you're done, Mike. Jason, have you heard in the Recovery Act, there's money for restaurants? Have you heard when those guidelines might be coming out?
Yeah, so there is a pot of money for restaurant. We don't know when the guidelines is coming out. A lot of the pressure has been on the shuttered venue grant program. So there's really been a priority because shuttered venues in general, since their staffing levels are fairly low, a lot of it ends up being contracted based on when an event is going on. So if there's no performance, there's not much of a staff, then PPP their PPP amounts that they can qualify for were fairly low since it's primarily tied to payroll. So the priority was on shuttered venues. Now that it looks like shuttered venues is in a good spot where they're going to be able to open up, we're hoping that SBA is going to move some of those resources and focus on getting the restaurant grant program up and running. So I think that should be, and I know the congressman has been very vocal on this. We expect that will be the next priority for the SBA.
Thank you.
And with that, Craig, do you have anything to add on the city report?
No, I think Kaylin hit all the highlights, so nothing to add.
Awesome, great. I did see Poway got 12th safest city in California just a few days ago. I thought that was really neat. And schools just reopened on the 22nd. Does anybody know how that's been going? Parents happy? All right.
Yeah, Michael, my wife's a teacher there at Twin Peaks. So she started having students last week, and she's getting a little bit more this week. So it's been a rough year for the teachers as far as, she had to redo all her lesson plans when we switched over to virtual learning. Mm-hmm. So it's been hard for everybody, the students and the teachers, as far as, planning but she's always been going to school, teaching from her computer, but now she's getting students. So it's working out.
Good.
Yeah.
And Michael, since you there's actually 130 billion in the rescue plan for K through 12 schools. So that could be something too. I know I don't see Poway Unified here right now, but I know I've been in contact with some of their board members, but that would be something that they probably want to take a look at. Again, as much of the money that we can bring to San Diego and Poway and surrounding areas, we think the better. The money's there, so why not take advantage of it?
Christine, do you have any announcements from the Water Authority?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of quick things. For the city of Poway, we have a fairly new board member. He was seated last year, but I don't believe I mentioned it at this meeting before. Eric Heidemann, who, from my understanding, is the Public Works Director for City of Poway, right? And so, he is replacing. He replaced Barry Leonard on our board, and he'll be seated through 2026. Also, I wanted to mention, you may or may not heard of a settlement that the Water Authority recently received from Metropolitan Water District. This was a decade-long rate case litigation having to deal with overcharges. And it was overcharges for just a period of 4 years, but the Water Authority received $44 million from that settlement. And so for the city of Poway, that means, just looking up the figure here, for the city of Poway, that's about $1.1 million that they will be receiving out of that 44 million. So the Water Authority voted to return all of that money back to its 24 member agencies based on their rate of overpayment during those specific years. And it's just, I want to, just clarify that the Water Authority does not have any say in how the city of Poway will, what the city of Poway will do with that 1.1 million. That will be up to the city to decide, what they're going to use it for, or, some member agencies are currently discussing this at their boards right now, whether or not they're going to return that to ratepayers, use it for another project or what have you. So, so look out for that. I'm sure Kaylin or Craig or someone can speak to that in the near future. The other thing that I was just going to mention, just in terms of COVID, I think the last figure I heard was about $1 billion in late or overdue water bills across the state of California. And so with folks being out of work and whatnot, it's really impacted payment of bills. And so what we're working on is to try and get some federal and state relief in terms of helping alleviate that. We were working on a bill for a state bill to help with this, but I think right now we're working with Assemblymember Gonzalez's office. I think more so along the lines of a budget line item, but that is fluid, and I can update you once I know more about that. I think that's pretty much, I'm just kind of going through my notes here, excuse me. I think that's pretty much all I was going to share today. So, so hopefully the next meeting we'll have some more. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, I'd like to talk about something that happened at the federal government level that's going to be instituted by the FCC coming here soon. This was in the $3.2 billion stimulus that was passed at the end of 2020, and that's the emergency broadband benefit. This is something that the FCC is putting together right now. It is for $50 credits for low-income families for their internet bill, and $75 credits if you live on tribal lands. You're also getting a $100 voucher to purchase equipment such as computers, tablets, to be able to connect to the internet. There was an application period between March 3rd and the 22nd. Cox we are going to be a member of this program, and our application was approved. The FCC is still working. This is a very quick program that's happening, but it is looking like we're going to be able to roll this out sometime between the mid and late April. And we're going to be able to start reaching out to current customers and potential customers that would like to get this benefit. This doesn't have any K through 12 requirements like our Connect to Compete program had for $9.95 low-income family internet. So this is going to be able to use for college students, people that are receiving Pell Grants. It's just going to get a whole lot of new people connected to the internet. So we're really excited about that. We're working with our local members of Congress, on those details when they come in. So they'll have a lot of information once we have more information. So just be on the lookout for that. We also have information on our website. So that should be something great coming forward. And with that, I believe that's all of our general community announcements. Do we have any other announcements that anybody would like to give before we close our meeting today? Oh, Dan.
Yeah, we about a year ago, when COVID all started, we were planning on meeting here at my office about the anaerobic digester. Well, it's been completed in January. So we're slowly phasing in the organic food program, waste pickup. And in Poway, we started this month where the residents can start putting food waste in their green waste container. So anybody living in Poway, just a reminder, you can start throwing your food waste, food scraps, bones, meats, and all that can go into the green waste container. And maybe down the road, we can maybe plan again and try to meet out here. We can take a tour of the anaerobic digester.
I know we'd love to do that. I've been able to get over there for other tours. It's just a really amazing facility you guys have there. So
yeah, and this is all done to get all the cities in compliance that we service with the SB 1383 and all the diversion and the greenhouse effects. And then the good thing is that we can make three things. We can make liquid fertilizer, solid fertilizer, mulch, and then methane is the biggest one, is where we can treat it and we can even put into the grid for SDG&E for methane gas, clean natural gas. And then we can also use it, we're going to use it for our trucks. So all the food that you guys throw away, it's going to help power our trucks to come up and pick up your trash and recyclables, all that.
Exciting new stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
With that, do we have any Poway announcements, Mike?
No, just on well, we had to close out the mixer. We're having our first in-person mixer back at Hop Stop tomorrow night. Looks like that might be complicated with rain, so we shut down the registration since I was going to be outdoors, so we don't get too crammed indoors if we do have to transition indoors. And then the big thing is the golf tournament. And we're close to selling that out and want to sell that out so we can start promoting more Poway Unified School Districts golf tournament, which got squeezed together with ours and is just a couple weeks after ours. So we actually only have one whole sponsorship available. That can all be found at poway.com and go to the golf tournament. We have just one whole sponsorship available, a couple other sponsors trying to get up over that 100 golfer mark, which I think we will pretty quickly. So again, we can promote that as a sellout and start helping Poway Unified sell out their tournament as well. So that's the main thing. As always, everything can be found at events page at poway.com. But the big ones are the golf tournament and the Business Star Awards in June. So those are our big focuses right now.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
With that, everybody, thanks for coming today. We're going to go ahead and close out. And our next Government Affairs Committee meeting will be on April 26th, 2021. Look forward to seeing you all there, and I'll be sending out more information.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. Great job with this.
Thank you. Bye, guys.